Why you can't find peace, and what Marcus Aurelius knew that you don't. You're lying in bed at 3 a.m., mind racing through tomorrow's meetings, last week's mistakes, and that awkward conversation from 5 years ago. Your phone buzzes with another news alert about something you can't control, and your chest tightens. Sound familiar? Here's what's fascinating. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world faced the same struggle. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, dealt with plagues, wars, and betrayals that would crush most people. Yet he maintained an inner calm that seemed superhuman. The difference? He understood something we've forgotten in our modern chaos. The ancient Stoics discovered a system for achieving what they called apatheia, ataraxia, and eudaimonia, 3 states of being that create unshakable inner peace. These aren't just fancy Greek words. They're the blueprint for a life where external events can't destroy your calm, where other people's opinions can't shake your confidence, and where you flourish regardless of circumstances. Most of us chase peace backward. We think if we could just get that promotion, find the perfect relationship, or hit that savings goal, then we'll finally relax. The Stoics knew this was a trap. As Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." The Stoics identified a radical truth. Peace isn't found by controlling your environment. It's achieved by mastering your inner world. They developed a precise understanding of how our minds create suffering and, more importantly, how to transform that suffering into strength. Think about your biggest source of stress right now. Maybe it's a demanding boss, financial pressure, or a difficult relationship. The Stoics would say your problem isn't actually the boss, the bills, or the person. It's how your mind processes these challenges. This isn't positive thinking nonsense. It's a practical philosophy that Roman soldiers used in battle and merchants used in business. The Stoics taught that we can achieve 3 specific states. First, apatheia, not apathy or indifference, but a state where destructive emotions no longer control you. Second, ataraxia, a deep tranquility that persists even in chaos. And finally, eudaimonia, a flourishing life where you're aligned with your true nature. These states aren't reserved for philosophers or monks. They're accessible to anyone willing to understand and apply Stoic principles. The same tools that helped Marcus Aurelius govern an empire while facing personal tragedies can help you navigate modern life with grace and strength. In this video, we'll explore exactly how the Stoics achieved this inner peace and how you can apply their methods today. You'll discover why your emotions spiral out of control, how to transform destructive patterns into sources of strength, and the practical steps to build a life of genuine tranquility. Ready to learn what Marcus Aurelius knew that most people today have forgotten? Let's begin with the 4 emotions that the Stoics identified as the primary destroyers of peace. 1. The 4 emotions that destroy your peace, according to Stoics. You're scrolling through social media when you see it, your colleague's promotion announcement. The same colleague who started after you. Suddenly, your chest burns with envy, your mind races with comparisons, and your entire evening is ruined. Or maybe you're driving home when someone cuts you off in traffic. In seconds, you're screaming at your windshield, blood pressure spiking, hands shaking with rage. These moments reveal something profound. We're not disturbed by events themselves, but by 4 specific emotional patterns that hijack our peace. The Stoics called these the 4 passions, and they understood that mastering them was the key to inner calm. Marcus Aurelius, while leading military campaigns and managing an empire in crisis, wrote in his personal journal how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. He recognized that our emotional reactions, not external events, create our suffering. The first destroyer of peace is what the Stoics called lupe, distress or grief. This isn't just sadness, it's the emotional spiral that follows when we believe something bad has happened to us. You lose your job and think, this is terrible. I'm a failure. My life is ruined. But here's what the Stoics understood. Losing your job is just an event. The distress comes from your judgment about that event. Consider Sarah from Chicago, who lost her marketing director position during company downsizing. She spent weeks in bed, convinced her career was over. Her distress wasn't about the job loss itself, it was about her thoughts. I'll never find anything this good again. Everyone will think I'm incompetent. I can't pay my mortgage. Each thought added another layer of suffering to a neutral event. Epictetus, who went from slave to influential teacher, put it bluntly, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. That job loss? It's neutral. Your thoughts about it create the suffering. The Stoics taught that by changing our judgments, we can transform distress into opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius expanded on this. Confine yourself to the present. When we experience distress, we're often not dealing with the present moment but with our projections about the future or regrets about the past. The job loss happened. That's a fact. But my life is ruined is a story we tell ourselves. The second passion is phobos, fear. Fear paralyzes millions of people daily. Fear of rejection keeps you from pursuing opportunities. Fear of failure prevents you from starting that business. Fear of judgment stops you from speaking your truth. Watch someone encounter a spider, their reaction isn't proportional to the actual danger. It's their mind creating a monster from a tiny creature. Take Michael from New York, a talented software developer who's dreamed of launching his own app for years. He has the skills, the idea, even some savings. But every time he considers quitting his corporate job, fear floods his system. What if I fail? What if I can't pay rent? What if everyone laughs at me? These imaginary scenarios feel more real than his actual capabilities. Seneca faced exile, poverty, and eventually execution, yet wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He understood that fear thrives on avoidance. The more we run from what scares us, the more power it gains. The Stoic approach? Face your fears with rational analysis. That spider can't actually hurt you. That rejection won't actually kill you. Transform fear into rational caution, assess real dangers without emotional distortion. Seneca also practiced what he called premeditatio malorum, imagining loss in advance. By mentally rehearsing challenges, we remove their power to shock us. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster, he wrote. The third passion, apatheia, lust or craving, might be the most relevant to our modern world. This isn't just sexual desire, it's any intense craving for something external. The desperate need for validation on social media. The obsession with luxury goods. The addiction to others' approval. When we crave something outside our control, we hand over our power. Consider how relationships become toxic when one person uses intimacy as a manipulation tool. Jennifer from Los Angeles found herself constantly anxious in her marriage because her husband would withdraw affection whenever she disagreed with him. Her craving for his approval made her abandon her own values and opinions. Or look at consumer culture. David from Miami earns 6 figures but lives paycheck to paycheck, constantly upgrading his car, watch, and wardrobe. His craving for status symbols leaves him financially stressed despite his high income. Each purchase promises satisfaction but delivers only temporary pleasure before the next craving emerges. Marcus Aurelius observed, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." The Stoics taught us to transform cravings into preferences, enjoy things without depending on them. Epictetus distinguished between what's up to us and not up to us. Our desires often focus on things outside our control, creating inevitable frustration. The fourth passion is hedon, delight or shallow pleasure. This is the subtle destroyer because it feels good in the moment. It's the pleasure you take in your rival's failure, the indulgence in gossip about others' misfortunes, the mindless consumption of entertainment while your goals gather dust. Even something as simple as overeating reveals this passion, choosing tongue pleasure over bodily health. Watch any office break room when news spreads about someone's mistake or failure. The subtle smiles, the eager sharing of details, the satisfaction in another's downfall, this is hedon at work. Or observe yourself at a restaurant ordering dessert despite being full, choosing momentary taste pleasure over physical well-being. Seneca warned, "Every new pleasure brings its own punishment." He wasn't being moralistic, he was observing reality. The delight in your neighbor's misfortune poisons your character. The pleasure of overindulgence leads to regret and poor health. The Stoics taught us to find joy in virtue instead, the deep satisfaction of acting with integrity, helping others, and growing in wisdom. Here's what makes the Stoic approach powerful. They didn't just identify these four passions, they showed us how to transform them. Fear becomes caution, you still assess dangers but without panic. Lust becomes rational desire, you can want things without being enslaved by them. Shallow delight becomes deep joy, finding satisfaction in virtue rather than vice. And distress? It becomes the fuel for resilience and growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When we indulge these four passions, we dye our soul with chaos and suffering. But when we recognize them and choose virtue instead, we create the conditions for true peace. The Stoics understood that these four passions operate like tyrants in our minds. They promise satisfaction but deliver slavery. They offer comfort but create chaos. Marcus Aurelius, managing the pressures of empire, maintained his peace by recognizing these patterns and choosing virtue instead. Think about your own life. Which of these four passions causes you the most trouble? Is it the distress that spirals from every setback? The fear that keeps you playing small? The cravings that leave you always wanting more? Or the shallow pleasures that distract from meaningful pursuits? Understanding these four destroyers is your first step towards Stoic peace. But understanding alone isn't enough. In essence, recognizing these patterns gives us power over them. Next, we need to explore the specific mechanism that creates these destructive emotions and, more importantly, how to shut it down. 2. How to stop letting your thoughts torture you. You wake up in the morning and immediately your mind starts racing. What if I don't get that promotion? What if my partner is unhappy? What if I never achieve my dreams? These thoughts swirl like a storm, leaving you feeling anxious before you even get out of bed. Sound familiar? Many of us experience this mental chaos daily, and it can feel overwhelming. The Stoics recognized this struggle and offered profound insights into how to manage these tormenting thoughts. They believed that our suffering often stems not from external circumstances but from our internal narratives. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet powerful truth lies at the heart of Stoic practice. One of the primary tools the Stoics use to combat destructive thoughts is the practice of cognitive reframing. Imagine you're like Sarah, a young professional in Chicago who constantly worries about her performance at work. Each time she receives feedback, her mind races with thoughts like, "I'm not good enough and I'll never succeed." These thoughts create a cycle of anxiety that affects her performance. Instead of succumbing to these negative spirals, the Stoics would advise Sarah to practice reframing. She could ask herself, what evidence do I have that I'm not good enough? By examining her thoughts critically, she might realize that feedback is not a reflection of her worth, but an opportunity for growth. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. This leads us to the first step in breaking free from torturous thoughts, awareness. Begin by noticing when negative thoughts arise. Keep a journal to track these moments. What triggers them? How do they make you feel? Awareness is the first step toward change. Without awareness, we become victims of our own minds, trapped in a cycle of negativity. Once you're aware of these thoughts, the next step is to challenge and reframe them. Ask yourself questions like, is this thought based on facts, or is it an assumption? What would I say to a friend who had this thought? Am I focusing on what I can control, or am I worrying about things outside my control? For instance, if you think, I'll never be able to change my career, challenge that by recalling times when you successfully adapted to new challenges. Remind yourself that change is possible and that every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. The Stoics also practice negative visualization, a technique that helps you prepare for worst-case scenarios while appreciating what you have. Imagine losing your job. Instead of spiraling into panic, visualize the steps you'd take, updating your resume, networking, or even exploring new career paths. This mental exercise not only reduces fear but also empowers you to take action when faced with adversity. Marcus Aurelius regularly engaged in this practice, reminding himself of the impermanence of all things. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." By contemplating the temporary nature of life, we can appreciate our current situation more deeply and diminish the power of our anxious thoughts. Another essential aspect of Stoic thought is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus emphasized this in his teachings: some things are within our control and some things are not. This distinction is vital when dealing with torturous thoughts. Focus only on what you can control: your actions, your reactions, and your mindset. For example, if you're worried about a public speaking engagement, concentrate on practicing your speech, preparing your materials, and calming your nerves. Don't waste energy worrying about the audience's reaction, as that is beyond your control. By directing your focus inward, you reclaim your power and reduce anxiety. The Stoics also encourage the cultivation of gratitude. When negative thoughts arise, take a moment to reflect on what you're thankful for. This practice shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant in your life. As Seneca wisely noted, a grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things. Gratitude can serve as a powerful antidote to the anxiety that stems from negative thinking. Consider John, a financial analyst in New York City who often felt overwhelmed by his workload. Instead of succumbing to his stress, he began a daily gratitude practice, noting 3 things he appreciated about his life each morning. Over time, he noticed that his perspective shifted. He felt less burdened by his job and more focused on the contributions he was making to his team and clients. Lastly, practice mindfulness and presence. The Stoics believed in living in accordance with nature, which means being fully present in the moment. When you find your mind racing with worries, bring your attention back to the here and now. Engage your senses. Notice the feeling of the chair beneath you, the sounds around you, or the taste of your food. This practice grounds you and helps to quiet the mental chatter. Marcus Aurelius advised, when you arise in the morning, think of the benefit of being alive, breathing, enjoying, and loving. By starting your day with mindfulness, you set a positive tone that can help manage the onslaught of negative thoughts throughout the day. The Stoic approach to managing torturous thoughts involves 1. Awareness. Recognize when negative thoughts arise. 2. Challenge and reframe. Critically examine your thoughts and reframe them. 3. Negative visualization. Prepare for the worst while appreciating your current situation. 4. Control. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. 5. Gratitude. Shift your focus to what you are thankful for. 6. Mindfulness. Practice being present in the moment. By integrating these Stoic techniques into your daily life, you can transform your relationship with your thoughts. Instead of being tortured by them, you'll find a newfound sense of peace and resilience. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The essence of Stoic philosophy lies not in avoiding discomfort, but in understanding that discomfort is part of the human experience. The Stoics teach us that we can choose how we respond to that discomfort. Will we let it overwhelm us, or will we use it as a catalyst for growth? In conclusion, the Stoics provide us with powerful tools to stop letting our thoughts torture us. By cultivating awareness, challenging our perceptions, practicing gratitude, and focusing on the present, we can reclaim control over our minds. Embrace the Stoic path and you will discover that peace is not just an elusive goal, but a state of mind that is always within your reach. 3. Why your fears control you and the Stoic fix. The elevator doors open on the 42nd floor, and your palms are already sweating. You're about to present to the board of directors, and your mind is screaming every possible disaster scenario. Your voice might crack. They might ask questions you can't answer. You might completely blank out. This fear isn't just uncomfortable. It's controlling your entire experience, hijacking your competence and replacing it with panic. Fear is perhaps the most tyrannical of all emotions because it doesn't just affect how we feel, it dictates what we do and, more importantly, what we don't do. The Stoics understood this deeply. They recognized that fear operates like a puppet master, pulling our strings and making us dance to its tune. Seneca, who faced political intrigue, exile, and eventually a forced suicide order from Emperor Nero, wrote extensively about fear. He observed, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Think about that. A man who faced actual mortal danger recognized that most of our fears are phantoms created by our own minds. Let's examine how fear controls us through the story of Jennifer, a talented graphic designer in Los Angeles. She's been offered a chance to start her own design agency with a major client already lined up. It's everything she's worked toward. But instead of celebrating, she's paralyzed. What if I fail? What if I can't handle the pressure? What if I lose everything? These fears have kept her in a job she's outgrown for 3 years. This is how fear operates. It creates imaginary futures that feel more real than the present opportunity. Jennifer isn't actually experiencing failure. She's experiencing the fear of potential failure. And that fear is making her decisions for her. Epictetus taught his students a radical truth about fear. When I see an anxious person, I ask myself, what do they want? For if a person wasn't wanting something outside of their own control, why would they be stricken by anxiety? This cuts to the heart of why fear controls us. We're attached to outcomes we can't guarantee. The Stoics identified several ways fear maintains its grip on our lives. First, fear thrives on avoidance. The more we avoid what scares us, the more powerful it becomes. Take Robert from Boston, who's terrified of public speaking. He's turned down 3 promotions because they involved presenting to groups. Each time he avoids speaking, his fear grows stronger, and his career stagnates. Seneca addressed this directly. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. Second, fear multiplies through imagination. Marcus Aurelius noted, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" The same applies to fear. Our fearful imagination creates consequences far worse than reality. When you're afraid of rejection, your mind doesn't imagine a polite, "no thank you." It imagines humiliation, mockery, and social exile. Third, fear disguises itself as prudence. We tell ourselves we're being careful or realistic when we're actually being controlled by fear. Lisa from Miami won't invest in the stock market because she's being prudent, but really she's terrified of losing money. She's already lost thousands in potential gains to inflation, but fear has convinced her that inaction is safety. So what's the Stoic fix for fear's tyranny? The Stoics developed several powerful techniques. The dichotomy of control. This is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." When Jennifer fears her business might fail, she's focused on what she can't control, the ultimate outcome. The Stoic approach would have her focus on what she can control: her effort, her integrity, her learning process. Marcus Aurelius applied this principle while leading Rome through plague and war. Confine yourself to the present. Fear lives in the future. By bringing our attention to what we can do right now, we rob fear of its power. Premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. This might seem counterintuitive. Why would imagining bad things help with fear? Seneca explained, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." The fact that it was unforeseen has never failed to intensify a person's grief. By rationally considering potential setbacks, we remove their power to shock us. If Jennifer rationally considers what would happen if her business struggled, she might realize she could return to employment, she'd gain valuable experience, she'd build a network. The worst case isn't nearly as catastrophic as her fearful mind suggests. Memento mori, remember death. The Stoics regularly contemplated mortality not to be morbid, but to put fears in perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." When you remember that life is finite, the fear of embarrassment or failure seems trivial compared to the regret of never trying. Gradual exposure. The Stoics believed in facing fears directly but wisely. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship, sleeping on the floor, eating simple food, wearing rough clothes. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" For someone like Robert with his fear of public speaking, the Stoic approach wouldn't be to immediately address 1,000 people. Start small, speak up in a meeting, then lead a small presentation, gradually building confidence through action. Reframing through virtue. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only true good. When fear controls us, we're usually protecting something external, reputation, money, comfort. But these aren't true goods according to Stoic philosophy. Epictetus asked, "What would Socrates do?" When facing fear, ask yourself, what would a virtuous person do in this situation? Present moment action. Fear paralyzes by projecting us into imagined futures. The Stoic fix is simple but powerful. Take one concrete action right now. If Jennifer fears starting her business, she doesn't need to quit her job today. She can register a business name, create one design sample, or have one client conversation. Action dissolves fear. Inaction feeds it. Marcus Aurelius, facing barbarian invasions and internal betrayals, wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." These aren't just pretty words. They're practical tools from a man who faced genuine life or death fears daily. The Stoic approach to fear isn't about becoming fearless. It's about acting virtuously despite fear. Courage, one of the 4 cardinal virtues, isn't the absence of fear but right action in the presence of fear. When you understand this, fear loses its power to control you. Think about your own life. What opportunities have you missed because fear made the decision for you? What dreams remain unrealized because fear convinced you to play it safe? The Stoics offer us a path to freedom, not from feeling fear, but from being controlled by it. Ultimately, the Stoic fix for fear is profound yet practical. Recognize what you can and cannot control. Prepare rationally for setbacks. Remember the shortness of life. Face fears gradually. Focus on virtue over externals, and take present moment action. When you apply these principles, fear transforms from a tyrant into a teacher, showing you where you have opportunities to grow in wisdom and courage. 4. The hidden cost of chasing pleasure. You're standing in line for the newest iPhone, having camped out since 3 a.m. The moment you hold it, dopamine floods your system. But by the time you're home, that rush is already fading. Within a week, it's just another phone. Within a month, you're eyeing the next model. This cycle, desire, acquisition, fleeting satisfaction, renewed desire, is the trap that millions fall into daily. The Stoics called this endless pursuit apatheia, and they understood something profound. The more we chase external pleasures, the more enslaved we become. Marcus Aurelius, who had access to every pleasure the ancient world could offer, wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Consider the modern dating scene. Tom from New York uses dating apps obsessively, swiping through hundreds of profiles daily. Each match gives him a small hit of validation. He's gone on dozens of dates, always looking for someone slightly better, slightly more attractive, slightly more successful. He's not looking for connection, he's addicted to the chase. The possibility of the next match keeps him from investing in actual relationships. This is apatheia in action, the constant craving for something external to complete us. Seneca observed, "Every man is in bondage to fear who depends upon chance for his happiness." When our well-being depends on acquiring the next thing, person, or experience, we've handed over our freedom. The hidden costs of this chase are staggering. First, there's the financial cost. Rachel from San Francisco earns $150,000 annually but lives paycheck to paycheck. Her apartment showcases designer furniture, her closet overflows with barely worn clothes, and her Instagram features exotic vacations. She tells herself these things make her happy, but her credit card debt and constant financial stress tell a different story. Epictetus warned, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Rachel's pursuit of pleasure through possessions has created a prison of debt and anxiety. The things that promised happiness have delivered their opposite. But the financial cost is just the beginning. There's also the cost to our character. When we're driven by cravings, we become manipulative. Watch how people in relationships use intimacy as currency. Sarah from Chicago withholds affection when her partner doesn't buy her expensive gifts. Mark from Denver lavishes presents on his girlfriend not from love but to maintain sexual access. Both have turned what should be expressions of virtue, love, and generosity into tools of manipulation. Marcus Aurelius recognized this corruption, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself to make it just and holy. When we're focused on getting pleasure from others, we lose sight of our own virtue. The psychological cost might be the highest. Dr. James from Los Angeles, a successful psychiatrist, finds himself unable to enjoy simple pleasures. A home-cooked meal seems bland compared to Michelin-starred restaurants. A walk in the park feels boring without his $300 noise-canceling headphones playing carefully curated playlists. He's trained his brain to need increasingly intense stimulation for basic satisfaction. Seneca experienced this firsthand as one of Rome's wealthiest men. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Despite his wealth, or perhaps because of it, Seneca regularly practiced voluntary poverty to break pleasure's hold over him. The social cost is equally devastating. Watch any gathering where people are more focused on photographing their food than tasting it, more concerned with posting about the event than experiencing it. We become performers in our own lives, chasing the pleasure of likes and comments rather than genuine connection. The Stoics offer a radically different approach. Instead of chasing pleasure, they pursued virtue. Instead of craving externals, they cultivated internals. Here's how they broke free from pleasure's tyranny. Distinguish between natural and empty desires. Marcus Aurelius taught, remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. The Stoics recognized that some desires are natural: food when hungry, water when thirsty, shelter from the elements. But most modern cravings are what they called empty: designer labels, social media validation, luxury experiences. These can never be satisfied because they're not addressing real needs. Practice voluntary simplicity. Seneca, despite his wealth, regularly practiced living simply. He wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound." Try this. For 1 week, eat simple meals, wear basic clothes, abstain from entertainment. Notice how quickly your mind adapts and how little you actually need. Transform lust into wish. The Stoics didn't advocate for the complete absence of desire. Instead, they transformed unhealthy lust into healthy wishing. Instead of lusting after possessions, wish for wisdom. Instead of craving others' approval, wish to act virtuously. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Focus on process, not outcome. When we chase pleasure, we're focused on outcomes: getting the promotion, winning the romantic interest, acquiring the object. The Stoics focused on process, doing excellent work, being a virtuous friend, living according to nature. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, confine yourself to the present. Pleasure is always in the future, virtue is always in the present. Recognize the diminishing returns. Every pleasure follows the law of diminishing returns. The first slice of cake is delicious, the second less so, the third might make you sick. The Stoics understood this pattern. Seneca wrote, "Every new pleasure brings its own punishment." Not because pleasure is evil, but because its pursuit inevitably leads to dissatisfaction. Cultivate inner resources. The greatest cost of chasing pleasure is that it prevents us from developing inner resources. While Tom chases his next dating app match, he's not developing the character that would make him a worthy partner. While Rachel accumulates possessions, she's not building the contentment that would make possessions unnecessary. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire at war, found peace through inner cultivation. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. He had access to every pleasure but found satisfaction in virtue, duty, and wisdom. Practice gratitude for what is. The pleasure chase always focuses on what's missing. The Stoic practice focuses on what's present. Epictetus taught, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Before seeking more, fully appreciate what you already possess. The Stoic path doesn't mean rejecting all pleasures. Marcus Aurelius enjoyed his morning rides, Seneca appreciated his books, and Epictetus valued his friendships. But they enjoyed these as preferences, not dependencies. They could lose them without losing their peace. The hidden cost of chasing pleasure is that it robs us of the very thing it promises, satisfaction. We become like addicts, needing ever-increasing doses for ever-decreasing effects. The Stoics offer freedom from this cycle. By pursuing virtue instead of pleasure, by cultivating internal rather than seeking external, by preferring rather than craving, we find what pleasure seekers never do, genuine contentment. Ask yourself, what are you chasing that's actually chasing you? What pleasure has become your master? The Stoics show us that true freedom comes not from getting what we want, but from wanting what we have, and ultimately from needing very little at all. 5. When feeling good makes you weak. You're scrolling through Facebook when you see it, your former colleague's business just failed. A small smile creeps across your face. You'd never admit it out loud, but their failure makes you feel better about your own modest success. Or perhaps you're at dinner with friends, and the conversation turns to someone's messy divorce. Everyone leans in, eager for details, secretly delighting in the drama that isn't theirs. This is hedon, the fourth and perhaps most insidious of the passions the Stoics warned against. It's not just pleasure. It's the shallow, often destructive delight we take in things that ultimately weaken our character. Seneca captured this perfectly. Every new pleasure brings its own punishment. He wasn't being moralistic. He was observing a fundamental truth about human psychology. Consider Brian from Portland, a middle manager who spends his lunch breaks gossiping about coworkers. When the new hire makes a mistake, Brian is the first to share it, adding his own embellishments. When his boss stumbles during a presentation, Brian texts his work friends immediately. This behavior feels good in the moment. It makes him feel superior, included, important. But it's slowly poisoning his character and his workplace relationships. The Stoics understood that these shallow pleasures operate like a drug. They provide immediate gratification but leave us weaker, more dependent, and ultimately less capable of genuine happiness. Marcus Aurelius, despite having every pleasure available to a Roman emperor, wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." Let's examine how these false pleasures manifest in modern life. Take social media, a breeding ground for hedon. Jessica from Seattle posts a photo of her homemade dinner and constantly refreshes to watch the likes accumulate. Each notification triggers a small hit of pleasure. But when her friend's similar post gets more engagement, that pleasure turns to envy. She's trapped in a cycle where her emotional state depends on digital validation from people she barely knows. Epictetus would have seen through this immediately. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." The Stoic approach isn't to seek validation, but to be so secure in your own virtue that others' opinions, positive or negative, don't disturb your peace. The physical manifestations of hedon are equally destructive. Watch David from Miami at an all-you-can-eat buffet. He's not hungry anymore. he's full after the second plate. But the pleasure of taste, the variety of options, the feeling of getting his money's worth drives him to a third and fourth helping. Later, feeling sick and sluggish, he wonders why he did it. This is what Seneca meant when he wrote, "Every man is in bondage to fear who depends upon chance for his happiness." David's happiness in that moment depended on taste sensations, chance occurrences on his tongue. The Stoics ate for nutrition and health, enjoying food without being enslaved by it. The entertainment addiction plaguing our society is another form of hedon. Michael from Chicago comes home from work and immediately turns on Netflix. One episode becomes three becomes 6. He tells himself he's relaxing, but he's really avoiding the gym, avoiding his side project, avoiding the difficult conversation with his partner. The shallow pleasure of passive consumption has replaced the deeper satisfaction of accomplishment. Marcus Aurelius faced similar temptations in ancient Rome. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" The emperor understood that shallow pleasures often keep us from our true purpose. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of hedon is schadenfreude, taking pleasure in others' misfortunes. When your competitor's business fails, when your ex's new relationship crumbles, when someone who rejected you faces hardship, that dark satisfaction you feel is hedon at its worst. Feels like vindication, but it's actually corruption. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we take pleasure in others' pain, we're not just reacting poorly, we're actively cultivating vice. Each time we indulge in schadenfreude, we become slightly less capable of compassion, slightly more prone to cruelty. So how do the Stoics guide us away from these destructive pleasures? The transformation begins with understanding. Recognize the difference between joy and pleasure. The Stoics distinguished between true joy, chara, which comes from virtuous action, and false pleasure, hedon. When you help someone without expecting recognition, the satisfaction you feel is joy. When you scroll through Instagram comparing your life to others, any pleasure you derive is hedon. Marcus Aurelius noted, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Practice sympatheia, mutual connection instead of delighting in others' failures. The Stoics practice sympatheia, recognizing our fundamental connection to all humans. When someone fails, instead of feeling superior, remember that you too have failed and will fail again. Seneca advised, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Their end might be your beginning to practice compassion." Engage in active rather than passive pleasures. The Stoics weren't against enjoyment, but they preferred active engagement over passive consumption. Instead of watching 6 hours of TV, create something. Instead of scrolling through others' lives, improve your own. Epictetus said, "No one is free who is not master of himself." Set boundaries around indulgence. Marcus Aurelius, with unlimited access to food and wine, ate simply. He wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment. Enjoy pleasures when they come, but don't pursue them. Don't eat because food is there. Eat because you're hungry. Don't drink to feel good. Drink to share fellowship." Transform shallow delight into deep appreciation. When you catch yourself taking pleasure in gossip, redirect that energy. Instead of delighting in someone's mistake, appreciate the lesson it offers. Instead of enjoying another's downfall, be grateful for your own stability. Seneca taught, "Every man is in bondage to fear who depends upon chance for his happiness." Practice negative visualization. The Stoics regularly imagined loss to appreciate what they had. When tempted by shallow pleasures, imagine their consequences. That gossip session, imagine it getting back to the person. That overindulgence, imagine how you'll feel tomorrow. This isn't pessimism, it's wisdom. Cultivate virtue-based pleasures. Replace shallow delights with deeper satisfactions. Instead of the pleasure of superiority, cultivate the joy of helping others rise. Instead of the delight of excess, find satisfaction in moderation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." The truth about hedon is that it promises strength but delivers weakness. Each shallow pleasure makes us more dependent on external circumstances for our happiness. Each indulgence in schadenfreude makes us less capable of genuine human connection. Each passive consumption makes us less able to create and contribute. The Stoics offer a different path, not the elimination of all pleasure, but the transformation of shallow delight into deep joy. When we find satisfaction in virtue rather than vice, in creation rather than consumption, in compassion rather than comparison, we build a happiness that can't be taken away. The question isn't whether you'll experience pleasure, you will. The question is whether that pleasure will make you stronger or weaker, more virtuous or more vicious, more free or more enslaved. The Stoics show us that true strength comes not from feeling good, but from being good. 6. The Stoic secret to worry-free living. Imagine you're lying awake at night, your mind racing through a checklist of worries. Did I send that email? What if I don't get the promotion? What will happen if the economy crashes? Each thought pulls you deeper into a spiral of anxiety, robbing you of sleep and peace. You wake up exhausted, already dreading the day ahead. This is a common experience in our fast-paced, unpredictable world. Worry is a natural human response, but the Stoics offered profound insights into how to manage it effectively. They believed that the secret to worry-free living lies not in avoiding concerns, but in changing our relationship with them. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic philosopher, famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet powerful idea encapsulates the essence of Stoic thought. The Stoics taught that we cannot control external events, but we can control our perceptions and reactions. By focusing on what is within our control, we can cultivate a state of tranquility regardless of external circumstances. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control. This principle distinguishes between what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, and what we cannot control, the actions of others, the outcomes of events. Understanding this distinction is crucial for reducing worry. For example, consider Lisa, a project manager who constantly worries about her team's performance. She stresses about whether her team will meet deadlines, fearing the consequences of failure. Instead of focusing on her own efforts to support and guide her team, she becomes consumed by anxiety over factors beyond her control. The Stoic response would be for Lisa to reflect on what she can influence, her own work ethic, the support she provides, and how she communicates with her team. As Marcus Aurelius advised, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. By directing her energy toward her own actions, Lisa can alleviate her worries and approach her work with a clearer mind. Another powerful Stoic technique for managing worry is negative visualization. This practice involves imagining the worst-case scenario and preparing for it mentally. Instead of allowing anxiety to spiral out of control, the Stoics would confront fear head-on. By visualizing potential challenges, we reduce their power over us. Take the case of Tom, a young entrepreneur preparing for his first major business pitch. Instead of letting worry consume him, he visualizes every possible outcome. What if the presentation fails? What if he stumbles over his words? What if the investors aren't interested? By contemplating these scenarios, Tom can prepare himself emotionally and practically. He can rehearse answers to tough questions, refine his pitch, and even practice staying calm under pressure. Seneca wrote, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." By anticipating difficulties, Tom can walk into his pitch with confidence, knowing he is prepared for the worst while aiming for the best. Practicing mindfulness is another essential element of Stoic wisdom. The Stoics emphasized living in accordance with nature, which means being present in the moment. Worry often pulls us into the past or future, causing unnecessary distress. By focusing on the present, we can alleviate anxiety and engage fully with life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." This philosophy encourages us to let go of regrets about the past and fears about the future. Instead, we should concentrate on what we can do right now. For example, during a stressful workday, instead of worrying about an upcoming deadline, take a moment to breathe deeply and assess what you can accomplish in the next hour. Focus on completing one task at a time, knowing that worrying about the future won't change the outcome. Another powerful Stoic practice is journaling. Keeping a daily journal helps clarify thoughts and feelings. It allows you to examine worries objectively and track progress over time. By writing down your concerns, you create space between yourself and your thoughts. You can ask yourself, are these worries based on facts or assumptions? What evidence do I have for or against these thoughts? What actions can I take to address these concerns? Sarah, a teacher in Los Angeles, found journaling to be transformative. Each evening, she reflected on her day, noting her worries and accomplishments. By writing down her anxieties about classroom management, she could see patterns and identify areas for improvement. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, she began to feel empowered. She realized that her worries were often exaggerated and that she had the ability to tackle challenges head-on. Additionally, the Stoics emphasized the importance of gratitude. When we focus on what we lack, we invite worry into our lives. Shifting our perspective to what we're grateful for can significantly reduce anxiety. Consider Mark, a financial analyst feeling stressed about job security. He begins each day by writing down 3 things he is grateful for: his supportive family, his health, and the opportunity to work in a fulfilling job. By starting from a place of abundance, Mark cultivates a positive mindset that minimizes worry about future uncertainties. Incorporating physical exercise into your routine can also help combat anxiety. The Stoics recognized the connection between the mind and body. Regular physical activity releases endorphins, improves mood, and reduces stress. Whether it's a brisk walk during lunch or a workout session after work, moving your body can create mental clarity and resilience against worry. Lastly, the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort can help build resilience against worry. This involves intentionally exposing yourself to discomfort or challenges to strengthen your mental fortitude. For example, take a cold shower, skip a meal, or spend a day without your phone. By stepping out of your comfort zone, you learn to embrace discomfort, which can reduce the power of future worries. As Marcus Aurelius noted, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Each challenge we face, including worry, can become an opportunity for growth and strength. In summary, the Stoic secret to worry-free living involves: Number 1. Dichotomy of control. Focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. Number 2. Negative visualization. Anticipate challenges to reduce their power over you. Number 3. Mindfulness. Stay present and engage in the moment. Number 4. Journaling. Reflect on your thoughts and track your progress. Number 5. Gratitude. Shift your focus from what you lack to what you have. Number 6. Physical exercise. Incorporate movement to improve your mental well-being. Number 7. Voluntary discomfort. Build resilience by exposing yourself to challenges. By practicing these Stoic principles, you can transform your relationship with worry and cultivate a profound sense of inner peace. Remember, worry is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to control you. Instead of being consumed by anxiety, you can choose to live virtuously, focusing on what truly matters. As Epictetus wisely said, it is not death or hardship that is a problem, but our attitude toward it. When you change your thoughts and embrace the Stoic path, you'll discover that a worry-free life is not only possible but also within your reach. 7. How to build a life that can't be shaken. Life has a way of throwing curveballs. One moment, everything seems stable, and the next, you're faced with unexpected challenges, a sudden job loss, a relationship breakdown, or a health scare. During these tumultuous times, it's easy to feel as if your entire world is crumbling. But what if you could build a life so resilient that nothing could shake your foundation? The Stoics believed this was not only possible but essential for a flourishing life. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the concept of eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or the good life. This state is achieved through the practice of virtue, wisdom, and self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This quote encapsulates the Stoic belief that our inner strength is the key to enduring life's challenges. To build a resilient life, we must first establish a strong foundation of virtue. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues serve as guiding principles for our actions and decisions, enabling us to navigate life's complexities with clarity and purpose. Wisdom, the path to understanding. Wisdom is the ability to discern what is truly valuable in life. It allows us to see things as they are without the distortion of fear or desire. For example, when faced with a difficult decision, wise individuals assess the situation rationally. Instead of succumbing to panic or emotional reactions, they gather information, weigh options, and consider the long-term implications of their choices. Let's consider the case of Maria, a software engineer who finds herself at a crossroads in her career. She has an opportunity to work for a startup that promises excitement but comes with significant risks. Instead of making a hasty decision driven by excitement or fear of missing out, Maria reflects on her long-term goals and values. By applying wisdom, she evaluates her priorities and makes a choice aligned with her vision for her career, whether that means embracing the risk or opting for stability. Courage, facing life's challenges. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. The Stoics understood that fear is a natural human response, but they taught that we must learn to face our fears head-on. Marcus Aurelius remarked, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that challenges can be transformed into opportunities for growth. Take the example of Jake, a recent college graduate who feels anxious about entering the job market. Instead of allowing this fear to paralyze him, he chooses to embrace courage. He reaches out to mentors, attends networking events, and applies for positions that excite him. By taking these steps, Jake builds resilience and develops a sense of agency over his life. Justice, building meaningful connections. Justice, in Stoic terms, refers to treating others with fairness, integrity, and respect. Building meaningful connections with others is essential for a resilient life. When we cultivate relationships based on mutual respect and support, we create a network of people who can help us during difficult times. Consider Clara, a community organizer in her city. She dedicates herself to fostering connections among her neighbors, building a support network that thrives on collaboration and understanding. When Clara faces challenges, she finds strength not only in her own resilience but also in the collective strength of her community. Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "No man is an island." Our connections with others provide us with support, encouragement, and the shared wisdom needed to navigate life's storms. Temperance, the art of moderation. Temperance, or moderation, is crucial for maintaining balance in life. The Stoics believed that pursuing pleasure without restraint leads to dependency and ultimately suffering. Instead, practicing moderation allows us to enjoy life's pleasures without becoming enslaved by them. For example, consider Alex, a busy executive who often indulges in late-night binge-watching sessions to unwind after work. Over time, he realizes that this habit leaves him feeling drained and unproductive. By practicing temperance, Alex sets boundaries around his leisure time, opting for activities that nourish his mind and body, such as reading, exercising, or spending quality time with family. This moderation enhances his overall well-being and resilience. Building a personal philosophy. To solidify these virtues in your life, consider developing a personal philosophy based on Stoic principles. This philosophy should guide your actions, decisions, and responses to challenges. Write down your core values and reflect on how they align with the Stoic virtues. By creating a personal mission statement, you establish a framework for navigating life's uncertainties. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal where he reflected on his thoughts, actions, and motivations. He often wrote reminders to himself about the importance of virtue and the transient nature of life. This practice of self-reflection helps to reinforce your commitment to living virtuously, ultimately creating a strong foundation for resilience. The power of reflection and learning. Resilience is not just about enduring challenges, it's also about learning from them. The Stoics embraced the idea that every setback is an opportunity for growth. When faced with adversity, take time to reflect on the experience. What lessons did you learn? How can you apply those lessons moving forward? Consider the story of Emily, a small business owner who faced bankruptcy during a recession. Instead of viewing the setback as a failure, she takes it as a learning opportunity. She analyzes her business decisions, seeks feedback from mentors, and develops a more sustainable business model. By embracing her challenges and learning from them, Emily emerges stronger and more prepared for future endeavors. Cultivating a resilient mindset. Finally, cultivating a resilient mindset requires ongoing practice and commitment. The Stoics understood that resilience is a skill that can be developed over time. Regularly engage in practices that reinforce your Stoic philosophy, such as journaling, meditation, or mindfulness exercises. Spend time each day reflecting on what you're grateful for and the virtues you wish to embody. This practice not only strengthens your resolve but also helps you maintain perspective during difficult times. As you navigate life's challenges, remember the words of Epictetus, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By building a life grounded in Stoic virtues, you create a foundation that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. You will find that, no matter what life throws your way, you have the inner strength and resilience to endure. In conclusion, building a life that can't be shaken involves cultivating the 4 Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By integrating these principles into your daily life and developing a personal philosophy, you can navigate challenges with grace and resilience. Embrace the Stoic path and you'll discover that true strength comes not from avoiding difficulties but from facing them with virtue and purpose. Your 30-day Stoic Peace Challenge. As we conclude this exploration of Stoic philosophy and its practical applications, it's time to put theory into action. The Stoics believed that philosophy should not merely be an intellectual exercise but a way of life. To truly embrace Stoicism and cultivate inner peace, I invite you to embark on a 30-day Stoic Peace Challenge. This challenge is designed to help you integrate Stoic principles into your daily life, transforming your mindset and emotional resilience. Each day, you will focus on a specific principle or practice that aligns with Stoic wisdom. Here's how to get started. Week 1. Cultivating awareness and control. Day 1. Identify what you can control. Reflect on your current worries. Write down 3 things you're anxious about and categorize them into what you can control and what you cannot. Focus your energy on the former. Day 2. Practice negative visualization. Spend a few moments imagining the worst-case scenario regarding one of your worries. Consider how you would handle it and realize that you can prepare for it mentally. Day 3. Journaling for reflection. Start a daily journal. Write about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Reflect on how your worries manifest in your life and how you can apply Stoic principles to manage them. Day 4. Mindfulness exercise. Engage in a mindfulness practice for at least 10 minutes. Focus on your breath, the sensations in your body, and the present moment. Notice how this practice calms your mind. Day 5. Gratitude reflection. List 5 things you are grateful for. Consider how these aspects of your life offer you strength and support, grounding you in times of uncertainty. Day 6. Seek wisdom. Read one chapter from a Stoic text like Marcus Aurelius' Meditations or Seneca's Letters. Reflect on the key messages and how they apply to your life. Day 7. Engage in a simple pleasure. Choose a simple, natural pleasure like walking in nature, enjoying a homemade meal, or spending time with loved ones and fully immerse yourself in the experience. Week 2. Embracing courage in action. Day 8. Face a fear. Identify a small fear you've been avoiding. Take one concrete action to confront it, no matter how minor. This could mean initiating a difficult conversation or trying something new. Day 9. Voluntary discomfort. Choose one day to practice voluntary discomfort. Skip a meal, take a cold shower, or go without your phone for a few hours. Reflect on how it feels to step out of your comfort zone. Day 10. Focus on virtue. Identify a virtue you want to embody more fully this week, like kindness, patience, or courage. Set specific intentions on how you will practice this virtue daily. Day 11. Help someone. Perform an act of kindness for someone without expecting anything in return. Reflect on how this act makes you feel and its impact on your sense of connection. Day 12. Study a role model. Choose a person you admire for their Stoic qualities. Research their life and reflect on how you can incorporate their virtues into your own life. Day 13. Write a letter to yourself. Write a letter to your future self, outlining your goals and the Stoic principles you aim to embody. Seal it and set a date to read it in the future. Day 14. Evaluate your week. Reflect on your experiences over the past week. What did you learn about yourself? How did Stoic practices impact your emotional state? Week 3. Building resilience and connection. Day 15. Engage in reflection. Spend 30 minutes reflecting on a recent challenge. What did you learn from it? How can you apply Stoic principles to face similar challenges in the future? Day 16. Cultivate connection. Reach out to a friend or family member you haven't spoken to in a while. Strengthen your relationships and nurture your support network. Day 17. Create a personal philosophy statement. Write down your core beliefs and values. How do they align with Stoic virtues? This statement will serve as a guide for your decisions moving forward. Day 18. Practice temperance. Identify an area where you tend to indulge: food, social media, shopping. For one day, practice moderation and reflect on how it feels to set boundaries. Day 19. Explore community. Join a group or online community that aligns with Stoic philosophy or personal development. Engage in discussions and share your journey. Day 20. Practice forgiveness. Identify someone you need to forgive, whether it's yourself or another person. Write a letter expressing forgiveness even if you don't send it. Reflect on how this act releases burdens. Day 21. Reflect on your journey. Take time to reflect on the progress you've made over the past 3 weeks. What challenges have you overcome? What growth have you experienced? Week 4. Embracing the Stoic way. Day 22. Engage in Stoic reading. Choose a different Stoic text or a contemporary book on Stoicism. Reflect on how its teachings apply to your life today. Day 23. Share your journey. Discuss your experiences with a friend or in an online forum. Sharing what you've learned can reinforce your commitment to Stoic principles. Day 24. Practice daily reflection. At the end of each day, reflect on your thoughts and actions. What went well? What could you improve? How can you apply Stoic wisdom tomorrow? Day 25. Revisit your personal philosophy. Review your personal philosophy statement and revise it as necessary. Ensure it aligns with your experiences and aspirations. Day 26. Plan for the future. Set specific goals for how you will continue embodying Stoic principles in your daily life after this challenge. Outline actionable steps you can take. Day 27. Cultivate mindfulness. Spend an entire day practicing mindfulness in all your activities. Whether you're eating, working, or spending time with loved ones, focus entirely on the present moment. Day 28. Embrace a challenge. Identify a significant challenge you want to tackle in your life and commit to taking action. Use your Stoic tools to navigate this challenge with clarity and resolve. Day 29. Celebrate your growth. Take time to celebrate the progress you've made throughout this month. Reflect on how you feel about yourself and your life now compared to when you started. Day 30. Commit to lifelong practice. As you complete the challenge, commit to continuing your Stoic journey. Set a plan for ongoing reflection, practice, and growth. Remember, Stoicism is a lifelong endeavor. By embracing this 30-day Stoic Peace Challenge, you're taking the first step toward a life rooted in resilience, virtue, and inner peace. Remember, the Stoics teach us that while we cannot control external events, we have the power to shape our thoughts and responses. If you found value in this journey, I encourage you to subscribe to the Stoic Viva channel for more insights, practical tips, and discussions on Stoic philosophy. Like this video and share it with friends who may benefit from these teachings. Together, we can cultivate a community that embraces the Stoic path to a fulfilling life. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Embrace the Stoic way and may you find peace and strength in every challenge that comes your way.